There was lion dancing performing for the Lunar New Year. I went with my sister and her boyfriend. When we were leaving, a police car drove in the shopping center, right in front of us. Making the most out of my day, I explored the rest of the park at night. I noticed a helicopter flying around, but I didn't mind it at first until it started flying above me. It kept flying in circles, and there was one moment I saw them flying directly towards me, so I decided to record them with my phone. Unfortunately, all videos and pictures from the trip were lost when I went to Spain. I crossed the street because I saw a red sculpture I wanted to take a picture of. I took a picture of it and I overheard someone say, "Oh, he's just taking a picture." I looked back and there were two police officers on foot, walking away. I was taking pictures and I noticed a police car drive by. Pretty normal, so I ignored it. When I was done, I needed to go to the restroom and there was one nearby, so I drove over and there was a police car right there. I was taking pictures and I noticed a police car nearby on the grass. There were two police officers standing and watching this homeless guy sleeping at the doorstep of the building. They were probably waiting for them to wake up. I just left George Perry Floyd Square and I was driving to Powderhorn Park. I saw two police cars drive in the opposite direction. I thought it was weird because for me, it's not common when two police cars drive back to back like that with no lights on. When I got to the park and got out of my car, I saw the police cars parked across the street behind me, next to some houses. They looked like they were investigating the house or something. After what seemed like two police cars following me, I got super paranoid and I assumed they could track my phone, so I turned my location off and I tried to navigate to my next destination without Google Maps. Big mistake. I got lost and ended going the opposite direction for a while. I stopped for a bit to navigate again, using just the image of Google Maps. I drove towards my destination, but I missed the turn and ended up driving in a neighborhood. I turned right and I parked my car to navigate. When I got the directions, I saw a police car drive by at the end of the road and I made a U-turn, because that's where my destination is headed. There was a stop sign ahead and when I got there, there was another police car to my left. I'm pretty sure they had the right of way, but they didn't move. I still didn't move for a bit, but I decided to turn left towards my destination. I turned slowly, watching them and wondering if they're actually following me, and I noticed "Federal" on their car. It looked like Federal Investigative something, but I'm not certain. I kept going and eventually I made it to my destination. After I explored the park, I went into my car and ate rotisserie chicken. I saw a police car parked at the back end of the parking lot, to the left of me. It bothered me a bit, but I was too busy eating. I did notice a guy talking to the officer, but other than that, nothing new. I'm not sure if this was the location, but in a similar setting, I was driving by these old, fancy-looking houses, surrounded by trees, and before I get to my destination, a security car drives by from the opposite side. I wouldn't be surprised if the police called nearby security to reduce visibility and work, but that's just me being paranoid. I was checking out the Archdiocese because it was one of the items on traveladvisor.com, but there wasn't much to it outside. I noticed signs around the corner, so I took a picture of it. There were a trail of signs about the history of this company, so I went ahead and took pictures for fun. I kept going until I reached a tiny park with sculptures. When I was there, a police car drove by. Nothing strange. It was night time and I was exploring downtown. I was heading towards the Union Depot to check it out. I saw people running away, saying there's cops. I pass by a woman and a young man. The young man is trying to run away, but the woman is holding onto him, reassuring him that if he doesn't run, he won't get in trouble. I looked around but I didn't see anything crazy happening, just some police cars with their lights on. I continued to do my thing, and I walked to the center of the building and did a video panorama, and then I left. After checking downtown late at night, I was tired, hungry, and I needed to shower, so I booked a motel. I stopped at a nearby Walgreens to find my razor because my hair was getting long and I was hoping to cut it at the motel. While I was looking around for it, I saw a police car drive by. I was too busy trying to find the razor, so I didn't care as much. In the end, I couldn't find it, because I had too much stuff in my car. Eventually, I checked in, but I still felt uneasy with my situation with the police. I remember at that time, I wrote a note, on the back of a Jiffy Lube coupon, to give to the police if I encountered one, pretty much explaining my situation saying, I quit my job to travel blah blah blah. So despite it being late, and being super tired, I decided to drive around and find a police car to pass along my note, to ease whatever tensions there is between us. I was driving and I saw a police driving in the opposite direction. I pulled down my window and waved my note, but I guess it was too dark to see. I kept driving and eventually I found another police car. I was driving behind them, waving my note around and flickering my light, hoping they would stop. When we stopped at a red light, I didn't know what to do, so I kept waving my paper. The light turned green and they kept driving and I followed them for a while. I guess the area was bad so they were scared to stop or I seemed really threatening, especially at night. Eventually, we drove through the neighborhood and the police car went inside the neighborhood driveway street. I looked at where he parked and it gave me bad vibes. It was really dark and it just looked like a place where I could get arrested or even get shot, so I went around. He drove through the driveway street and we met on the other side. I paused, looking the police car, and decided that this was a bad idea so I kept going and just went to the motel. It was daytime, and I was still exploring downtown. I was near a light rail station. A guy was running away because he said there's cops on the light rail. I can see a group of officers in the light rail from a distance, but I didn't pay them any mind. When the light rail passed by, a female officer made eye contact with me. Other than that, nothing strange. After following the police car, I wanted to explain myself to the police the right way, so I went to the police department. I was nervous to go in, but eventually I went inside. It wasn't what I expected and I think I had to make an appointment. Since I didn't want to waste my traveling days, I decided to walk out. An Asian officer was heading towards the building and I told him that I think the police is following me. He asked why I think that and I answered maybe because I'm taking too much pictures. I can tell he knew his material because the way he answered it was professional. It went somewhere along the lines of, there shouldn't be any problems with taking pictures as long as I don't trespass. I don't remember the conversation word for word unfortunately, but that was the gist of the conversation. I thanked the officer and went my way. I just got into town and I drove into the parking garage. I parked on the highest level, and when I got out, I looked at the view and I noticed a police car drive by below. Nothing strange. I started exploring downtown and it's beautiful. I started to hear whispers. I'm not sure if someone was saying it or if my mind was playing games, but I heard, he's not taking pictures of anyone. I was really paranoid from Minneapolis and St. Paul, so I thought there were people undercover. I did see a lady sitting down, on the phone, but nothing strange. I was walking around downtown, making my way under the highway, and I saw a police car drive by. Nothing strange. I was enjoying the botanical gardens and I heard this banging noise and chattering from a distance. I was super paranoid and for some odd reason, I thought the police was breaking into my car. I knew it was just my mind playing with me, so I ignored it and kept taking pictures of the garden. I kept hearing more banging, so it made me uneasy, and around this time, I must have been hallucinating because I heard a lot of whispering, even though there was no one else there. When I got to my car, everything was fine. This was the peak of my delusional self. From then on, I knew my mind could be dangerous, making things up, so I stopped listening to my thoughts. I was checking out the forest preserve since the scenic overlook was closed. It was a nice peaceful trail, but there wasn't much, so I left. When I came out to the parking lot, I saw a police car in the back. I decided to drive over and I told him I think the police are following me. I can tell he got a bit defensive. I don't remember the rest of the conversation, but I think he asked why I thought that and I answered maybe because I'm taking too much pictures. When the conversation was over, I thanked him and left. I was driving to my next destination and a few minutes before I get there, I see a police car coming from the other way. Seemed coincidental, as if trying to track my location. When I got to the cathedral, I was taking pictures like normal. When I got closer, I saw, I guess security, in black, walking out of the building. They just stood outside while I did my thing. This was another case, where I wouldn't be surprised if the police contacted the cathedral to keep an eye on me, but that's just me being paranoid and delusional. It was a cold and rainy day, but it didn't stop me from exploring. I went to Walmart to buy food and when I was heading back to my car, I noticed an older but healthy man with a white beard, walking and looking my way. I didn't think much of it until I went to the park. I might be racist because the man at the park looked very similar to the Walmart man. It was sprinkling very lightly outside and I was in my car. He was already outside and he went to his car to grab an umbrella. I waited in my car for a while and watched because I was suspicious of him. I'm assuming it was cold and he got tired of waiting, so the man walked back to his car and left, and that was when I got out to explore. I explored all day, checking out one side of the river and exploring the other side of the river, where downtown was. I didn't notice anyone following me. It was cold and at times, it was raining a lot, but I kept going because I didn't want to waste my day. When it was night time and I was checking out the park, just outside the art museum, I noticed a guy with a white beard, standing next to the art museum, facing me, wearing the cheap clear plastic raincoat. I'm pretty sure it was the same guy at the park. Moments later, when I was doing a video panorama of the area, I had my back against them, but I heard a second guy walking to the man and asking the man if he's doing okay and that he can call it a night if he wanted. My phone was low on battery and the notification came on, so I leaned forward to open my fanny pack and I grabbed my portable charger. The second guy asked the man what I was doing and the man answered saying he's low on battery. I pretended I didn't notice them and continued doing my thing. Eventually the second guy left and I wandered elsewhere. I didn't notice when the white-bearded man left, but I continued to explore. I'm not sure if this is the right place, but in a similar setting, I was done exploring for the night, and I went to the rest area. I was starving, so I took out the rotisserie chicken and started eating. While I was eating, I saw a police car parked behind my car and they stayed there for a while. It bugged me, but I was hungry, so I ignored them. Eventually they drove off. I had the windshield cover so I didn't watch them leave, so I kept eating. I was curious, so I took a peek behind the windshield cover and they were parked where the truck driver and automobile roads merged. I continued eating and later, I peeked again and they were still there. Eventually, they left and I went to sleep. I was walking around the park, taking pictures and videos, and I just noticed a golf cart, with two old guys on it, driving in. Nothing strange, but it could be another case of me being paranoid and thinking the police called them to watch me. It was almost night time and I was walking and taking pictures and videos, and I noticed two officers, male and female, walking in the opposite direction. I overheard them talking, saying I take a lot of pictures and they were curious what pictures I would take when I go downtown. Unfortunately, days were limited and time was running out, so I didn't get to visit downtown or Toledo until sometime after the Northeast trip. I'm not sure where the actual gas station was, but it had a similar layout as this one, where the road curved like so and the parking spaces were on the left side, just perpendicular to the road. I parked my car and a police car happened to park right next to me, on my left side. At this point, I wasn't surprised and I went in to buy gum. Seemed like a local officer who knew the people at the gas station because when I was at the register, I took a glance over, and he was talking friendly with the person at the register to the right of me. I then went into my car and reversed out. I remember being uneasy because they were watching me back out and I didn't want to hit his car. I went in Olneyville, New York System restaurant to buy a cup of coffee milk, since Rhode Island was known for it. I parked between the Family Dollar and McDonald's to enjoy the drink and to navigate to my next destination. I looked up and I saw a police car drive by. They made it too obvious. I went in to buy their lobster mac and cheese. I bought it in Rhode Island, but supposedly it's more well known in Connecticut. I guess at that time, I couldn't find a place that fit my schedule, or I went ahead and bought it just to try it out. But when I got out, I saw a police car across the street at the gas station. I was getting close to my destination, and while I was driving, on 2 separate occasions, there were police cars that were driving a little bit reckless, in my opinion, towards me, and then moving right in front of me, as if they were trying to start something. It was past midnight and I was driving to Atlantic City, trying to get as much driving done so that when I wake up, I'll be at the destination in the morning. I was driving normally and I noticed a car behind me. I'm a slow driver, so I usually let cars pass by. Also, after all I experienced, I don't like people following me, and their lights were distracting, especially at night. So, I pulled to the side to let them pass, and it ended up being a police car. They stopped next to me and we both pulled the window down. I don't remember how the conversation started, but the officer thought I was suspicious because I have a Texas license plate, driving in New Jersey, past midnight, so I understand his point of view. I said I wrote a note explaining my situation, I quit my job to travel blah blah blah, and I opened the door and tried to hand it to him. He calmly said to stay where I am, so I closed my door and told him that I quit my job to travel, and he said he was happy for me. I also mentioned that I'm just going my pace, and he understood that feeling too. I was recording the entire time, but nothing crazy happened. I said my farewell and we went our separate way. Like the situation in New Jersey, I was driving normally, getting into town, and 2 police cars drove, a bit recklessly, in my opinion, towards me, from the right, and changed lanes in front of me. What caught my attention was their emblem. Both cars were fully black and they had a golden circle on the driver door. When I was driving through Kansas, I was trying to pass a 16-wheeler. I was going just 5 miles over the speed limit. The 16-wheeler and I were going about the same pace. After I passed the truck, I saw a police officer on the side of the road, near an exit. Seeing a cop along the interstate is normal, but this officer was crouched down outside of his car door, aiming a speed radar on incoming traffic. Also, along the way, I was driving normally, and I saw a police car driving in the opposite direction. They made a U-turn and drove next to me for a bit. Then, they changed lane and drove in front of me. I think they were driving a bit slow, so I changed lane. Eventually, they exited and everything was normal. Lastly, while I was driving, I saw multiple black cars with the golden circle emblems, at least 15 of them, driving in the opposite direction. It was a bit crazy, but nothing happened. I worked overtime and got out really late. I was starving, so I got some McDonald's. When I was heading back to my hotel, I saw a police car coming from the opposite direction. After knowing police follow me, having one police car is normal, but when I was at the light, about to turn left on the main road, there was another police car on the other side of the intersection. Sometimes when I came home from work, I would see police cars. One time, I was on the left lane, trying to turn to get to my hotel, and there was a police car on the opposite side of the intersection. Another time, on a snowy day, a police car turned after me. At the stop sign, I turned right to get to my hotel. The police car turned left. I watched the police car with my rear view mirror and I saw them make a U-turn, as if to make sure I don't deviate from my normal route. I was entering the state late at night, and I realized a police car was following me. They were behind me for a while and then they slowed down. They sped up again to catch up, and then they slowed way down to pretend they weren't following, but I can still see their headlight from a far distance. When they were behind me, I drove the speed limit and I drove towards the right side of the lane, to allow them to see ahead to pass safely, but they weren't interested. At one point, we were behind a larger vehicle and I was about to make a right turn. I turned on the blinker really early and the police car probably thought I was signaling them or something, so when I slowed down and made a right turn, they drove to the side of the dirt road. After I turned, they got back on the road and continued following me. The road started to get really curvy, and I was still driving speed limit, and I can see the police car maintaining their speed to catch up. They followed the whole night, and when I reached the exit to the next state, I can see the police car pass by on the highway. Someone told me it was because they were small-town police, so they were just trying to get money for their towns. I was walking alongside the baseball stadium and there was a police car driving in front of me. They had to stop at the light, so I felt watched and it made me uneasy. I think I was looking at the stadium or taking pictures or videos of it to make it less awkward for me. I was walking around downtown, taking pictures and videos, and I see a police car driving by, to my left. I looked at the police car and I see a female officer staring at me. I'm pretty sure it was the same officer that was at the park during my Northeast trip. It was night time and I was just exploring and taking pictures and videos. I was sitting on a bench, enjoying the view and skyscrapers, and I see a helicopter flying around. It flies towards me from a distance, but I don't do anything about it. It flies away and after a while, I see it coming back my way again. I just ignore it, and continue my night. The restaurant just opened and my parents decided to eat breakfast there. While we were waiting for our food, I noticed a police car drive by. Nothing unusual until a black car slowly drives towards the restaurant, as if to capture nearby license plates. The car parks on the first row from the restaurant, couple spaces from our rental car. I watched the car and no one gets out. Our food came out and we're eating normally. I look up multiple times and I see the person throw coffee out the window, but they still don't leave their car, as if they were on a stakeout. When we were almost done eating and getting the bill, that's when an Asian guy stepped out of the car. He walks in and he's on a call with someone. I watch him go in and he sits on the table next to my parents and I. My dad looks over at him and smiles. I feel very uncomfortable, but my head slowly turns his way. I look at him, he seems to be staring right back. I give him a slight nod and then slowly turn my head the other way. We paid the bill and went our way. I took a video of the interior of the airport because I thought it looked beautiful. I wasn't aware there were officers on the second floor until my mother mentioned it, but I paid them no mind. My sisters and I were going to Target, and we were in her car. We're on the right lane to turn and a police car coincidentally needed to turn as well, so they squeezed right behind us. My sisters didn't believe me, so I kept quiet. I was driving and the light turned red. I was in front, in the middle lane, left lane is turn only, and I thought it was weird that there was no car to my right. I looked over and I saw a police car next to me, but their front was where my back wheel was, as if they were being cautious around me. I was checking out a place to rent for the first time and I'm about to make a left turn. A police car happened to come from the right side, to make a left turn. There has been a lot of times when I use Google Maps, and I would encounter a police car a few minutes before I get to my destination. Some time after I moved in, I turned at the light to get home from work and a police car was just parked to the side of the road, as if waiting and making sure I go to my intended destination without causing any trouble. I was coming home from work and right before I turned, to get to my apartment, I can see a police car just ahead of me driving slowly, as if to make sure that I make the turn. I saw a police car ahead of me when I drove down this road. Nothing strange. I was heading home and a police car happened to be right at the light at the intersection. It was lunchtime at work. I typically walk to my car to eat lunch and take a nap. There was a nice breeze, so I had the windows down a bit. I noticed a helicopter flying by from a distance, but I didn't mind it. However, when I heard a helicopter fly back, that's when it was suspicious. I recorded it and they were flying close. Then, I recorded again and they were flying from a distance again. If you notice, there are just farmland around my old workplace. One time, I just left the gas station and I took a small road to eventually make a right in order to get on the highway. I noticed a police car driving on the main road, coming from the opposite side. Nothing strange. But, another time, after I turned on the road to get on the highway, a police car happened to be driving on the opposite side, towards me. I was going my usual route, coming home from work, but last minute, I decided to eat out. On the way, I stopped at a stop sign to make a left and a police car happened to come from the right side to make a left turn. I went to Ojos Locos Sports Cantina because my Hispanic coworkers recommended it to me. It's mainly targeted for Hispanic guys, because the first time I went, there were beautiful ladies, however, English wasn't their strong suit, so it was a little hard to order food. I went a second time to eat, just because, and I was sitting at a table, facing the TVs with my back towards everybody. When I was heading out, I noticed a Caucasian police officer sitting in the booth, facing the same direction as me. It's a public place to eat, but like me, he seemed out of place, and it's just suspicious, knowing my history of being followed. My coworker invited me to eat barbecue at his place with a bunch of other coworkers, and to no surprise, a police car drives by. Because, what I can assume are orders, to keep watch of me, have been passed state to state, new police officers, who receive these orders, obey them without question, so they automatically think I'm a criminal. So something like hanging out and eating barbecue, they suspect I'm doing something bad and illegal. I'm just overthinking, but this is what I assumed if I was in their shoes.